Ravenswood Manor had been standing since the early 1800s, a grand old estate that had been home to many generations of the Ravenswood family. It had survived wars, economic downturns, and even a fire that had nearly destroyed it. But despite all of its trials, it had never been abandoned, and had always remained in the hands of the Ravenswoods. That was until the last Ravenswood, a young woman named Emily, died without any heirs. The estate was passed on to distant relatives, who had no use for the old manor and quickly put it up for sale. It was then that the new owners started to realize that Ravenswood Manor was not just a beautiful old house. It was haunted. The first sign of the haunting came on the very first night that the new owners moved in. They heard strange noises coming from the walls, and the sound of footsteps on the wooden floors. But they dismissed it as just their imagination playing tricks on them. It wasn't until the second night that they knew for sure that they were not alone in the house. A loud banging on the door woke them up in the middle of the night. When they went to investigate, they found that there was no one there. The next day, they decided to explore the house, hoping to find some answers. As they walked through the dusty old rooms, they noticed that there were strange symbols etched into the walls and floors. They had never seen anything like it before, and they couldn't help but feel that they were being watched. As the days passed, the haunting became more intense. Doors would slam shut on their own, objects would move on their own, and they could hear whispers coming from the shadows. They were afraid to leave the house, afraid of what they might find when they came back. One night, they decided to call in a paranormal investigator, hoping that he could help them get to the bottom of the haunting. He arrived at the manor with all of his equipment, ready to start his investigation. As he walked through the house, he felt a cold breeze and heard strange noises coming from the walls. He set up his cameras and started recording. What he captured on film was chilling. The footage showed the apparition of a young woman, wandering through the halls of the manor. She appeared to be lost, and she was crying. The investigator followed her with his camera, but she disappeared into the shadows. The haunting continued for months, and the new owners could no longer bear to live in the house. They put it up for sale, but no one was interested in buying it. The legend of Ravenswood Manor had spread, and people knew that it was haunted. Years went by, and the manor fell into disrepair. The windows were boarded up, and the gardens were overgrown. But the haunting continued. People would report seeing strange lights in the windows, and hearing the sound of footsteps on the wooden floors. One day, a group of urban explorers decided to break into the manor, hoping to uncover the secrets of its haunting. As they made their way through the dusty old rooms, they heard a sound that made their blood run cold. It was the sound of a woman crying. They followed the sound, and it led them to a hidden room in the attic. Inside, they found the ghost of Emily Ravenswood. She was sitting in a chair, staring off into the distance. She appeared to be lost in thought, and she didn't even acknowledge their presence. They approached her cautiously, hoping to communicate with her. But as they got closer, she vanished. The group of explorers were stunned by what they had witnessed. They couldn't believe that they had just seen the ghost of Emily Ravenswood. They searched the room for any clues that could help them understand why she was still haunting the manor. As they were searching, they found a diary that belonged to Emily. They quickly realized that Emily had been in love with a man who her family disapproved of. She had been forced to marry someone else, and her true love had died shortly after. Emily had never been able to move on from her lost love, and her spirit had been trapped in Ravenswood Manor ever since. The group of explorers knew that they had to help her move on. They contacted a psychic medium who specialized in helping trapped spirits cross over to the other side. The medium arrived at Ravenswood Manor, and she immediately felt the presence of Emily's spirit. She performed a ritual that would help Emily's spirit to move on, and as she did, the atmosphere in the manor changed. The cold breeze that had always haunted the house stopped, and the sound of footsteps on the wooden floors ceased. When the ritual was over, the medium spoke with the group of explorers. She explained that Emily's spirit had finally been able to move on to the afterlife, and that Ravenswood Manor was no longer haunted. The group of explorers left the manor, feeling relieved that they had been able to help Emily's spirit find peace. They knew that they had witnessed something incredible, and they would never forget the haunting of Ravenswood Manor. From that day on, the manor remained silent and still. The gardens were overgrown, and the windows were boarded up. But people knew that the spirit of Emily Ravenswood was finally at peace, and that her ghost no longer haunted the old estate. The legend of Ravenswood Manor lived on, but it was no longer a place of terror and fear. It was now a place of peace and remembrance, where the spirit of a lost love had finally found its way to the other side.